The nitrogen cycle. Just as water is necessary for life on Earth, so the element nitrogen is an essential part of the proteins which all organisms need to stay alive. Nitrogen, like water, cycles between Earth and its atmosphere and back again. So now let's watch this video.
Nitrogen makes up 78% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. But most of this nitrogen takes the form of two nitrogen atoms strongly bonded together, which isn't very reactive and is useless to plants. For it to become plant available, we need the help of bacteria. Various species of bacteria eat atmospheric nitrogen and poop out ammonium. This gets eaten by other kinds of bacteria, which poop out nitrite, which gets eaten by yet another kind of bacteria, which poops out nitrate. All of these forms of nitrogen are available for plants, especially nitrate, which is the easiest for plants to use. Plants can take this up directly if it is near their roots, but they most often rely on strands of fungi that attach to their roots and bring nutrients to them in exchange for the sugars and carbohydrates the plant roots exude. Dead plant material is also rich in nitrogen and gets brought down with the help of worms, whose poop is a delicacy among nitrifying bacteria. Some of the ways nitrogen exits the soil is when the crop is harvested, when water carries it away, or when it becomes gaseous and returns to the atmosphere. Or if the soil lacks oxygen, different anaerobic bacteria grow, which convert nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen. Notice that these things only happen with loose nitrogen in the soil, not with nitrogen inside organisms. Okay, so we know that the nitrogen cycle depends heavily on life in the soil. Without them, the plants would be quite sad. But you may have noticed, if the fixation process is done by bacteria, where do nitrogen-fixing plants fit into this? Believe it or not, nitrogen-fixing plants don't fix nitrogen. Rather, they create habitat for the bacteria that do. The roots of this clover plant have little nodules that house huge amounts of nitrogen-fixing bacteria. The ammonium that these bacteria create slowly releases into the soil for neighboring plants and microorganisms to use. When the plant dies, the bacteria disperse into the soil, resulting in an abundance of bacterial allies for future plants' nitrogen need.
So recall that the atmosphere is mostly nitrogen. However, this nitrogen is in a form that the plants and animals cannot use. The process that changes atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen compounds that are usable by living things is called nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation changes the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen compounds that are usable by living things. Plants and some other organisms take in this changed nitrogen from the soil and water. Then animals take in nitrogen when they eat the plants and other organisms. As you learned in the previous lesson, decomposers can break down the tissues of dead organisms. When organisms die, nitrogen-fixing bacteria help return the nitrogen in the tissues of died organisms to the environment. Nitrogen also returns to the environment in the waste product of organisms. Farmers often spread animal waste called manure on their fields during the growing season to provide nitrogen to plants for better growth. So this is the nitrogen cycle.